Hey there, Mr. Terry, high school history teacher. Welcome back to another History Teacher X video. All right, we got some more Mitsi Studio, and I keep getting recommendations for this one. It is the Civil War. All right, originals down below. Make sure you check that out. Sub to their channel, like and comment on their video, and of course, do the same back here. All right, let's laugh and learn. All right, today's getup is very anachronistic with this and this, but it's the closest thing I got for Civil War, I guess. All right, these are so funny. And I've noticed, some maybe I could show in class and some I most definitely cannot show in class. We'll see which one this is.
Today we're diving into the biggest family feud in American history, the Civil War, a drama filled with slavery, heroes, and battles. With Fort Sumter being the spark that lit the powder keg.
First battle.
The South wanted to split, Lincoln said, "No way, Jose," and thus began 4 years of fighting that literally tore the country apart.
Insert, it wasn't about slavery, it was about states' rights.
But ultimately set it on a new path toward freedom and equality.
Oh, God.
This is the American Civil War in a nutshell, with bombs, ideals, and a whole lot of chaos. Talking about blowing stuff up.
We're going to get to the 800,000 dead, or are we just going to show all the, I don't know, not safe for work parts that aren't even battle related?
Up and moments that shaped history, let's give a huge shout out to our sponsor, War Thunder, the most comprehensive vehicle combat game available for free on PC, consoles, and Android or iOS for mobile. Step out of the combat stone age and command over 2,500 tanks, planes, helicopters, and ships from 10 major nations. Whether you're piloting biplanes from the roaring 1920s or charging into battle with today's fierce fighter jets, you'll be at the front lines of epic warfare. War Thunder runs on a heavily optimized engine, so even your veteran grandpa can get in on the action. The stunning graphics and authentic sound effects make you wet your pants and put you right in the driver's seat of history's most powerful war machines. Choose your battlefield with 3 distinct modes: arcade, simulator, and realistic. Join the massive community of over 70 million players today on PC, PlayStation, Xbox, or mobile devices. Play War Thunder for free. Use the link in the pinned comment or description. Haven't played in 6 months? No problemo. New and returning PC or console players receive a huge bonus pack that includes multiple premium vehicles. The exclusive vehicle decorator Eagle of Valor, 100,000 Silver Lions, and 7 days of premium account.
Nice.
In 1861, the United States decided...
Okay, we're going right in. All right, we got the border, right? We got the middle states. They were the ones that actually had slavery but didn't necessarily secede. Also, why the Emancipation Proclamation goes into effect, but only in rebellion states. At the north, they're slightly less racist white folks, and then blacks for sale. Oh, gosh. All right. And let's see, on the west, indecisive people, and they're still colonizing all that and settling all that. Yeah, but in the dusty Indian cemetery. Oh, my gosh, basically. Brutal. Pretty accurate map, though, right?
The United States decided that a simple family drama was too boring and went for a full breakup. Tensions over slavery were already sky high, especially since the South had a business model that practically ran on free labor.
Yeah. I mean, slaves aren't free. They're actually quite expensive. But after that, yeah, for sure there. Yeah, the tension built up for years. The biggest problem that the U.S. had when it came to the slavery question was all this new land out west. You had the Louisiana Purchase, and they're still colonizing all the way to the Pacific. What do you do about those states? Are they going to have slaves? Or are they going to have it up for a vote? Or they're, whatever. And before that, it was easy because they just made it equal. They're like, let's just kick the can down the road there about this whole solving slavery thing. Let's just have equal amount of slave states and free states, and that couldn't keep going forever if they're going to keep expanding into new states.
Just like modern sports brands and phone manufacturers, that sort of thing. But the North had been eyeing the South for a while, and something had to change. Abraham Lincoln took office and voiced the radical idea that people maybe shouldn't live in slavery. This was received
Lincoln, though, when he was campaigning, and you can go back to, actually wasn't for president there, but the Stephen A. Douglas debates and stuff, talking about how he just wanted slavery basically not to expand, and but didn't necessarily see that whites and blacks were equal. He didn't really say that. Things change a little bit when it becomes a lot more problematic, and he wants to use it as a weapon to basically win the war, which is, okay, go ahead and free the slaves there. But I think he kind of took a more moderate approach. I think he felt if you just unleash everything, absolutely no slavery, free them all, and then try to force everybody to say they're equal, he probably thought that would ruin his political career. And he thought that it would kind of plunge things into chaos. So he took, I guess, a more pragmatic approach. That's kind of what seems like what Lincoln was doing.
The South, as if someone had just taken away their lollipop.
Yeah.
South Carolina kicked off the secession and declared, you know what? Fuck y'all. We're out. Other southern states thought,
that was literally what was in the secession documents. All right. The first secession documents, they're like, yep, blank you, we out. And by the way, secession in their secession documents, yes, slavery is in them.
Bent, y'all. Piss off, y'all. Y'all can shove it. Drop dead, y'all. Y'all kiss my big old southern ass. Y'all can take your shit and go. Go to hell, y'all. Y'all go biz up a row. Eat a bag of dicks, y'all. And screw you guys, y'all.
Yeah, I can't show this already.
Join the new Confederate States of America, with Jefferson Davis as their president.
There he is, the first.
Then came Fort Sumter in April 1861. The Confederacy decided to throw the first punch by firing on the Union fort in Charleston.
Yeah, so that was a, military installation there in South Carolina. But once South Carolina secedes, they're like, this should be ours. And the North, those guys should be out. And they were like, I don't think we are going to leave, or we got to wait. And then the attack happened. So that was the South Carolina perspective.
Officially starting the war. The North, the Union, and the South, the Confederacy, were now officially in conflict, and both sides built large armies to prove their point. The North had more people, more railroads, and more factories.
That's why they win. Not even about some of the tactics and stuff. It's just it's during industrialization. The North was more industrialized. They got more stuff, people, all those things going for them. And that really matters in the 1900s for war.
While the South relied more heavily on courage and some brilliant generals like Robert E. Lee. Lee, who had originally wanted to fight for the Union but felt compelled to defend his home state of Virginia. He opposed slavery from a philosophical perspective, whatever that is. Yet he supported its legality and held hundreds of slaves.
I don't know if that helps you wash your hands clean of it or something, but whatever. Oh gosh, look at his servant.
Meanwhile, the northern economy was proving its industrial might. The South was mostly dependent on agriculture and struggled to acquire war supplies, increasing their logistical pressure and reliance on overseas trade with countries like Great Britain.
That's how they make their money. Got to sell it somewhere. So, the foreign importers of a lot of stuff are kind of like, maybe the South should probably win. That might help us a little bit. Cheaper goods.
The first major battle took place at Bull Run. The Union had an unpleasant surprise here. Their soldiers thought the Southern Army would be easy to defeat, but they were quickly beaten themselves.
Yeah.
This battle was a wake-up call for the Union, who realized that the war would be much harder than they had thought.
Yeah, that was a huge underestimation. Union's like, we're just going to roll in. They invade, cross the border, right? And the South kind of, was in defense mode for a while, but then, is going to push over Mason-Dixon line and maybe spread themselves a little too thin. What do you think about that? Heading up all the way to Gettysburg and that?
There followed many bloody battles, such as Shiloh and Antietam. The Battle of Antietam in 1862, the bloodiest single-day battle in American history, showed the determination of both sides to keep fighting.
And that's saying a lot, because there was a lot of nasty battles. Antietam, absolutely horrific.
Even if it meant extreme sacrifices. Winning Antietam gave Lincoln the chance to issue the Emancipation Proclamation, which declared all enslaved people in the southern states free.
But not all slave states. Remember, there were some states that had slavery but did not secede, some of those border states. A lot of people say that Emancipation Proclamation, in a way, is what officially made it about slavery, at least in the eyes of the North. But a lot of people will also criticize the Emancipation Proclamation. Like, if it was really about freeing slaves, well, then why didn't you free the slaves in states that didn't secede? And probably, again, more of a political military reason, right? It's like, if you made it clearly about slavery that way, they were afraid up to that point that maybe those states would then secede and would now fight against the Union.
This made the war for the Union not just a fight for unity, but also a fight for moral justice, the first wokies, as you will.
Probably more well, I mean, okay, you have that, but they did think it would have kind of a tactical advantage. But again, it's not like the Emancipation Proclamation was sent down to those states, which already don't accept the federal government up north. It's not like they read it and were like, oh, crap, they're all free, and now I guess they can just leave. Like, no, you're going to have to fight the end of the war for that.
At the same time, it discouraged European countries like Great Britain from supporting the Confederacy, giving the Union a significant strategic advantage.
They had already freed their slaves. Britain had abolished slavery in 1833, so didn't want to, have their hands dirtied, I guess, in that one.
Another important factor was control of the Mississippi River.
Yep, a lot of fighting.
The Union launched an Anaconda Plan.
Pull up your pants.
No, I hear what you're thinking, but that wasn't it. It was a plan to surround and exhaust the South by cock-blocking. Cutting off their supply of weapons and goods.
Remember, back in those days, the Mississippi River was like a super highway freeway. A lot of economic activity goes there, a lot of transport. Very important.
By capturing control of the Mississippi, the Union split the South in two, making it harder for southern states west of the river to connect with the eastern forces. In 1863, General Grant led the siege of Vicksburg, giving the Union complete control of the Mississippi.
Yep, down there, down south. Big dub there.
This was a massive blow in the nutsack to the South, and left them both economically and strategically castrated.
Oh, gosh. While he was saying that, I was watching what looked like a mushroom cloud here. Look at this.
And left them both economically and strategically castrated. The Battle of Gettysburg in 1863 became one of the war's most crucial battles. General Lee tried to turn the tide of the war with an invasion of the North by attacking Pennsylvania.
Now, if you don't know, okay, look at a map. Pennsylvania is way up there. That was really, really pushing hard into there, and probably going to be a mistake.
But his troops were eventually crushed like goobers.
Like goobers? Is that what you said?
Gettysburg became a turning point. From that moment, the South was modestly on the defensive.
Yeah, big turning point for sure.
Lincoln seized the victory to give his famous Gettysburg Address, calling for a new birth of freedom for a nation dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal.
It wasn't right. It was, it wasn't right after.
Ulysses S. Grant, nicknamed the Butcher, became the Union's commander and adopted a strategy of constant attacks to wear down the Confederacy. He launched the Overland Campaign, sending his armies to relentlessly engage Lee's forces.
This is when the North really was being brutal at this time. It's also an election year. So remember Lincoln's first election, that was in 1860. He really wanted the war, if not to be over by 1864 election, but at least to be very, very near it. So he really had them go in. We hear about like Sherman. We'll see if he gets Sherman's march. Grant's pushing in, wanted them to go hard. And again, if you couldn't end the war, make it very close to it so that he can be reelected and finish the job.
Grant's approach was simple and ruthless.
And it works.
The Union had more soldiers and resources, so if he just kept attacking the Confederacy, their reserves would eventually run dry. This led to bloody battles, such as the Battle of Wilderness and Spotsylvania. Meanwhile, Union General William Tecumseh Sherman led his famous March to the Sea in 1864.
Devastated everything.
What began in Atlanta turned into a trail of destruction toward the Georgia coast.
Just everything. Farms and homes. Just devastating. It was the March to the Sea. They were trying to get all the way to the Atlantic Ocean, just cutting through the heart there of Georgia and just annihilating everything. So brutal. Again, it's kind of what Lincoln wanted. He's like, Sherman, you go do hard damage here. We got to wrap this thing up.
Sherman's army destroyed railroads, factories, and farmland to fuck over the Southern economy and break its morale. His scorched earth tactics left the South poor as a church mouse and was a final blow to any hopes of the Confederacy making a comeback. By 1865, the South was completely exhausted. Soldiers deserted, supplies were depleted, and the dream of a separate Southern nation quickly faded.
It's over.
After a long and weary chase, Lee's army was surrounded. He was forced to surrender his ass to Grant at Appomattox Courthouse on April the 9th, 1865.
You know, as a kid, when you hear about Appomattox Courthouse, you think it was like in some actual courthouse. That's actually the name of the area.
The surrender was modest and generous. Grant allowed Lee's soldiers to return home without punishment, probably because everyone was too exhausted to keep fighting.
This has been something that people have talked about where it's like, hey, there was not really repercussions for those involved in this, mutiny, this treason against the U.S. Nothing, of course, for like slave owners. And again, nothing for those. They pardoned basically everybody there. They just kind of thought. And by the way, we're going to get the assassination here of Lincoln. But it seemed like they were like, all right, we just, if they just go hard and again, try to just punish everybody involved with that after the war, that'll be more problematic. They're like, I guess we just got to heal. So I guess if you could say that they kind of got off lightly, although we really can't because, hundreds of thousands of people die. But
unfortunately, the war ended with a tragedy.
There's Wilkes Booth. I saw him in the back there. I saw him back there. He was behind Lincoln. There he is. Famous actor, John Wilkes Booth. South supporter. Doesn't like how that war is ending. He's like, I'm going to do us justice. Here it comes. Right to the head, eventually. They're drawing this out. I don't know if we know. Do we know if Lincoln reacted at all?
Lincoln was assassinated.
He jumps
by
off,
John
breaks his leg.
broke a foot Wilkes Booth.
Break his leg.
A Southern sympathizer, which shocked the nation.
Sic semper tyrannis, death to tyrants. May or may not, say that. But he actually ran off and there was a manhunt for him for days. He got out of the theater and he ends up going in some farmhouse and then there was a shootout with him that ends up killing him. But yeah, he got away from this. Can you believe that?
Lincoln's death made the process of Reconstruction even more difficult and showed that the fight for equality and unity was far from over.
Lincoln didn't get to oversee the Reconstruction, really.
What important things did we learn from the American Civil War?
What?
Getting rid of slavery is a very pricey endeavor. Hundreds of cities were flattened and 620,000 soldiers had to kick the bucket to adopt a more inclusive business model. Christians tried to stop the slavery thing several times before, but it was officially abolished with the 13th Amendment.
Sure. People of Christian religions, interestingly, again, on the difference of interpretations, through the history of slavery in the United States, use Christian beliefs to both support and be against slavery, kind of interpreting it the way I guess you want to. But 13th, 14th, 15th Amendment, those are Civil War amendments, right? 13th is going to free the slaves. 14th is going to make them citizens. And then we get the 15th, which is going to allow them to vote.
So, good job there, chaps. It's something countries like Saudi Arabia, India, China, Pakistan, North Korea, Nigeria, Indonesia, and Bangladesh might learn something from, right?
It kind of depends. China had abolished it at certain times. It kind of depends on the dynasty, but each of those, it kind of depends.
The Civil War brought the country one step closer towards a better future. Though the struggle for civil rights still had a long way to go.
It's a step. It was a step. Oh, they're doing some Rosa Parks. Sitting on the bus. There were some Klansmen up there. She's going to lead the Montgomery bus boycotts, which really, really sent a message getting African Americans not to use the very important bus system in Montgomery, Alabama. Miss Parks.
Let's make the world a better place and start playing War Thunder for free on PC, consoles, and Android or iOS.
Let's leave it a better place by blowing each other up. Use the links in the
comments or video description to get on board. All y'all PC or console warriors who haven't played for 6 months will receive a ginormous bonus pack.
All right, final thoughts. All right, still probably can't show this one in the classroom, although that was a lot more tame, I will say, than the last couple I watched. I'll link these, by the way, at the end, actually down below, and then here at the end of the video, by the reactions. Last one I checked out was on the Dutch East India Company, and you got to watch. Honestly, my reaction to that, because if you know the scene I'm talking about, I was not ready for that, and I about lost myself on that one. I also had watched the one on the Blitzkrieg, of course. You guys have been watching that one. These have been a lot of fun for me to check out. They're informative too. They do a good job. It's just a little bit of the dark humor. Again, probably can't put it in a K-12 public school, but I know y'all kids are going to learn from this on your own here, and I guess that's a net positive. I will take that. All right, you guys. We'll see y'all next time.